capital. Then carrying the money won't dilute it. It builds up, similar to the widely held belief that stock sales diminish shareholders. However, in our situation, we accrete more the more money we raise or the more shares we issue. Accordingly, the balance sheet of hundreds of thousands of corporations contains dilutive assets, and the first significant accretive asset is Bitcoin. Therefore, by actually accumulating assets, we completely reverse the intended treasury approach. We currently have $15 billion worth of Bitcoin listed on our account. Additionally, the running company's cash flow is $75 million. $500 million is the operating revenue as well. As a result, we elevated the balance sheet above the PL as the main component of the business. Everyone else wants the PL to be the main component of the business and wants the balance sheet to be negative or zero. A brief passage taken from Saylor. Additionally, he's discussing MicroStrategy's strategy, which includes Bitcoin on its balance sheet. Will additional Fortune 500 corporations adopt this tactic? Will they also begin purchasing Bitcoin? After this surge, only time will tell if these firms begin to consider purchasing Saylor's company as well after witnessing how much its valuation has increased. What is the current state of crypto crew after that? Sean is returning to you regarding the video on cryptocurrencies. Take a peek at the Bitcoin Bros 101 website before we get started. We are grateful for all of your support, gentlemen. To obtain a pass, sign up on our premium Patreon page here. Additionally, take a look at our courses. This course is here for 9 hours and more. This is what it looks like when you purchase the course. All you have to do is click start. All you need for your cryptocurrency trading journey is 9 hours of pure technical analysis. Observe the price movement of Bitcoin. What is visible? What are our expectations? We are examining the past all-time highs at this moment. Bitcoin is trading at 63.9, just below 64,000. Is the summit here now? Is it the question that's bothering everyone? We do not think so. Before we examine the chart, let's examine the LMACD. You've seen this before, we promise. Examine the trend line. These peaks are linked to the LMACD. Furthermore, the LMACD hasn't returned up here as of yet. We still have a few legs to run. What then does this overall graphic show us? What intriguing measurements can we draw from this? These are the peaks we have. There was a high here in 2011. There was a second, third, fourth, and we are about to have this fifth peak. When we reach this prior all-time high, what will we see? When do we peak out, and how long does that take? That amounted to 245 days. How long does it take for us to peak out the next time we reach this previous high? An additional 214 days. There were two peaks before this one, which is the current cycle. After a peak at 65,000, there was a cool-off period before another peak at 69,000. Therefore, it relies on your definition of the all-time high. If you follow this first one, the price movement from when we broke the previous $20,000 peak will have been 151 days. Now remember this. This is being examined on the monthly chart. Thus, it's not precisely 20,000. At 13.8K, these candle bodies closed. Above it were wicks like this. These wicks were over the 61K mark in the same manner that the candle bodies here closed. Thus, even at 64,000, where we are currently, this is positive. We'll explain that to you. We'll quickly inform you of it. However, let's go on to this first peak, which occurred 151 days after we broke through the previous all-time high. If you make this the highest point. Now, if you use the $69,000, it takes roughly 365 days, or a full year. This means that the peaks span widely from 150 days to 365 days. So when can we expect the next peak based on that range? We can see that these prior closings served as resistance if we zoom in on this price movement, which is why we are so bullish. Before we were turned down, we tried this once, twice, 3 and 4 times. And see, we disregarded this, had a candle body close, and conducted this test again. This is an example of a classic pattern where resistance is broken and then turned to support. And will that have a positive outcome for us? That appears to be how things are going thus far. What would happen if we were to utilize the 151 range from the time we exceeded the previous all-time high? That means August of 2024 will arrive. Let's now also utilize the year time frame, and that will carry us through to May 25th. Therefore, we might be examining this range at this moment. Let's draw our rectangle starting on August 24th and ending on May 25th. That is 153 days since our last closure above this resistance. How many days, then, is that from our current location? That means we'll be looking at about 122 more days. That amounts to 4 months. Could this be the beginning of a 4-month peak? That might be the likely outcome. However, if you additionally consider a second March 25th, 334 days are involved. That is about 11 months. Thus, there's a good possibility that we'll witness this Bitcoin peak in 4 to 11 months. We have repeatedly demonstrated this to you. There was a chance for this retest. We searched below it in the $59,000 range, and this monthly retest presented a chance. This could be the one when things take a turn for the better, and before you know it, we might start to turn bullish. An update from TechDev in brief. About altcoins, many have questions. Take a look at the price movement of Bitcoin and the others. Thus, altcoins are the others. The market action is stair-stepping horizontally to the downside with a bottom, and a sort of retracement that puts in a higher low, a peak, and then a bottom higher low. However, what have you noticed? Each and every one of these has already occurred. First to move is Bitcoin. The alts came after the bottom Bitcoin. The alts, followed by the second bottom and Bitcoin's retreat. The alts come next, right here at this peak, the absolute lowest of all that Bitcoin has ever done. So now see what Bitcoin did. It's funding the future of the cryptocurrency industry. We observe the same thing when we look at all three. Is this chart bullish now? We'd say that. We understand. This is the resistance that we fled to. However, it's important for people to understand that this level is also a significant confluence point. If we take this back, we can see that we overcame this act of resistance and that we returned to test this. Here is where we failed this level. What took place? We went off the edge. Thus, based on our current position, this might be a massive double bottom pattern. Could have had this retest if the alts hadn't broken out. This was the best time to make a purchase. Now is not the time to give up. So where would we end up at this ultimate peak? Price action is currently at $645 billion if we pull this up and then pull this up, being incredibly conservative from where we are at this point. This could be a move of 113%. That means you would receive around 2.3x for each dollar you turn in from Bitcoin to alts. Some will perform better than others. If you use this neckline, that is. The technical target now rises somewhat higher to that 1.618 if you utilize the other neckline, which runs from the bottom to this orange line. That will yield a marginally higher yield. As you can see in this particular instance, a 225x, your return is likely to be 3.25x. Thus, when compared to Bitcoin, both are significant. Thus, there's still time to secure alternates and a good spot. On the 3 days, the total 3 is divided by Bitcoin. As you can see, there was a bearish cross made when the 20 crossed the 200. And on this 200, the 20 is currently serving as resistance. We rise above it, descend below, rise above, descend below, rise above, descend below. This amount of opposition is serious right now. Will there be a major collapse and a final meltdown for alts? Will alts drop an additional 48-49%? Will alts be making a higher low against Bitcoin? Or will we revert to these levels? Something you must take note of. There isn't much room between the 20 and 200 moving averages at the moment. We are still in a downward trend, and the current tendencies are friends to the end. These wicks seem to be going through lower highs and lower lows. Additionally, keep in mind that this can be the beginning of a rounding bottom pattern for the alts. Is this a ruse to pull back, and are we about to see an increase in value? You would be the judge in either case. All three appear optimistic. This is a great macro opportunity and maybe a retest. This needs to be seen as a huge enveloping green candle. We returned with nearly half of that candle. As long as this line holds, that is unquestionably a bullish indication. Remember that. That's all I have to share with you today. I'm Sean from the Bitcoin Bros. Once more, please click the like button if you enjoyed this article. Please give us some love by subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you for your support. That's all I have to share with you today. And I'm leaving.